All right, next up on my dude, I got a ton of questions on, and usually I get blindsided in my experience. Business continuity. So if there's two sections that I hear that half my test felt like that, it's networking and disaster recovery, but it depends on your exam. That being said, let's make sure we have a good handle on what business continuity is and this particular question on incident response. An organization has been maintaining their information system management system, an ISMS, for a few years. They are subject to many required third-party assessments to ensure they maintain their risk levels. For residual risks, they have and made a number of continuity plans, including how to deal with man-made intentional threats. Which technology below is mostly associated with actively assisting in such events, including logging for compliance? A, disaster recovery as a service. B, security information and event management, SIM. C, extended detection and response, XDR. Or D, security orchestration, automation and response. Let's go a little deeper here. So according to NIST, and a lot of people debate these, I've seen some various takes on this concept, the difference between business continuity, disaster recovery, yada, yada, yada. But I'm going to go with their definition. Business continuity is the big picture that overall addresses that you maintain the continuity of your operations. Whatever you do, if you're a hospital and your computers go down, you still got to deal with patients. So that's the most important thing. And of course, your life safety is probably number one. But beyond that, we're worried about the IT stuff in CISSP. And so they break up business continuity into incident response and disaster recovery. And in their definition, this is for man-made intentional threats. This is when a malware outbreaks or an internal employee misusing the system or whatever. This is for man-made accidents or natural disasters. Okay, that will help us. So this is for man-made intentional. Now, NIST also has their way of handling incidents, a basic process flow, and memorizing this will go a long way on the exam. In fact, outside of the scope of this question, I understand there's quite a bit of questions where you detect a problem. Three of the answers are containment issues, and you haven't analyzed what the problem is. So it confirmed that it really was a problem. So whatever. But in this time, I just want you to understand the process workflow. First, we're prepared because we have processes, procedures, a team assigned. We know these problems can happen. The residual risk, something could happen. And when we detect a problem, we need to do something. Now, first we figure out what is it. Then we take containment measures, maybe, unplug it or isolate that network, whatever, clean it up, get the system back working, do our lessons learned, hopefully get better prepared for the next time. But in reality, the average time to detect a breach in 2022, according to IBM, was 207 days. And it was another 70 days. So let's automate this and see if we can reduce that time, right? That's the whole point. Now, in my classes, I go over all the time. One of the hardest parts here, the CISSP is like a waiter. Many people say, think like a manager because your customers are managers, but you're there to serve the manager. And managers don't always know your menu, your tech jargon for what you call stuff. In fact, there are now disaster recovery. We already isolated out the disaster recovery as a service probably wasn't right, but the other B, C, and D, and they all could fall under that. In fact, depending on the whose menu you're reading, at the Denny's they include that. It comes with the whatever incident response capabilities. At the other ones, you got to buy that a la carte. So I have friends who work in this field, and they tell me every system SIM, XDR, SOAR, they all now have these capabilities. So the CISSP has to understand, yeah, but what's the common term? So SIM tools, they've been around for a long time. They were to take our IDSs and other logging stuff and help us put it into a one big place and correlate the various logs. These logs are very sophisticated, and over the years, we know in SIM that these logs could be analyzed and audited, and for compliance checking, they've already built that in there. It's a well-known thing. XDR, on the other hand, is an extension to like endpoint detection response and network detection response, and it extends it into all kinds of things. And it's mostly associated with taking all these different things, correlating them like SIM, but it's a little more active. They will, CrowdStrike or whatever will take a response action, but they're not mostly associated with having the compliance logs. The term SOAR is used very often to describe that. So now again, what's in in a name? One of my favorite authors, Robert Anton Wilson, always says the menu is not the meal. What the managers want to know is, hey, I want something that does this. I don't care what you call it on your menu. The important thing is that you deliver that. But the CISSP has to go over the menu and have to look at, well, according to what we're using here, it seems like what you want is this. Right. And it's the same thing, whether it's in real world, you're getting your managers, your users, your data owners asking you to help them, or when you're taking your exam. And the ISC question, and it's pretty easy because you only got A, B, C, and D on your menu. It's one of those items. So one good place to go for your managers is Gartner. Gartner will read these reports, and to Gartner, this is the purpose of SOAR. So SOAR integrates a few different technologies. There's an incident response, to help you document and maintain, hey, this reported problem came in here, I assigned these people here, and we've done this before, and this blah blah blah, who should get that job. But it's not automated. It's considered mostly kind of passive. So the SOA, the orchestration response, is to create a playbook. Well, this happens, this has happened, it's going to happen automatically. We're going to shut down, isolate that network, and go. So if you see that, see what? It's a new threat. So threat intelligence platform is actively looking and bringing in feeds from various sources. This is a new threat, whatever MITRE database just came out, told us to watch out for that. All of a sudden we're seeing it here. So it orchestrates all this. So let's go back over the question again. An organization been maintaining their system, blah, 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 blah. For which of the following technologies mostly associated with actively? Well, it's not. First of all, it's man-made intentional. So that's not disaster recovery. That's for man-made accident. Oh, I didn't mean to hit that button. I tripped over the wire. Because it's active, it's probably not SIM. And because it is associated with logging for compliance, that probably rules out XDR in most people's menus. I don't want you to go back to work. If you have a SIM tool or an XDR solution, you probably already have plugins for these anyway. So don't get caught up in the terms, but to pass your exam, I would choose that. Yeah. Whoops. So yeah, I probably now the funny thing is man-made intentional. What is ransomware? And these disaster recovery solutions, I'm a big fan of these things. They're backing up everything. We'll go into more in other questions, recovery point objectives or not. And these, live cloud-based systems can restore your data with like near zero data loss. So if I were worried about ransomware, I would actually employ disaster recovery as a service, even though it's not associated with man-made intentional. Menu's not the meal. And again, SIM is described mostly as passive. XDR is usually not as expected to have that. So we want SOAR. I've heard there's a few questions on it, and I hope that helps people. And as always, I hope to see you in one of my classes, and let's make the world a better place. I'm a very optimistic guy. We can do this. We live in the age of miracles. Bye-bye now.